We met in the summer of 1974 at a meeting of women poets of the Twin Cities, which is a writers group that continues to this day. We still meet every month in different people's homes and read our work. And Phyllis apologized for being a songwriter instead of a poet, and proceeded to sit down at the piano and make this most amazing music. So that was the beginning.
Yeah, I think we fell in love right then and there at that first meeting. Though I had not thought of myself as a lesbian at all. And so it was quite a revelation to me to be having those feelings at that time.
Phyllis said, before I met you, I didn't know any lesbians, and now I know two. And although we still think that's a very funny line, it does say a lot about the movement, in that we felt for a long time, at least for those first couple of years, that we were alone in the world. And so when we look at the progress that's made in the civil rights movement for gays and lesbians over the past decades, it's in some ways it's frustrating that it's so slow. And in some ways, it's a thrill that we've come this far. We couldn't have imagined it in our lifetimes. I think that just by living our lives and being who we are, that little by little, people have become friends of ours and neighbors and gotten to know us. And you know, what's the big deal? After a while, people kind of have to ask themselves, what's the big deal? You know, like we pay our property taxes and mow the lawn, and we don't have loud parties late at night. So what's the harm in that? And I think that kind of activism, multiplied thousands and thousands of times across the whole country, has had a huge impact for couples and individuals saying, I will not hide. And that refusal to hide, I think, has made a very, very big difference in all social and civil rights movements.
Mm-hmm. I want to add a piece in here. Home has taken on a very important significance for us because it's been so difficult to feel at home. Mm-hmm. Here in River Falls, we have experienced and continue to experience the community and the way we're treated as, for the first time, really, a home for us. And that's why these times are so important. We never thought we'd see the day when our relationship would actually be a first-class relationship. At least it would be if we were in Minnesota. It's not here in Wisconsin. But home for me is perhaps the most important piece of the pursuit of happiness that we're guaranteed, and we have really been afflicted in that pursuit over the years. So we're delighted that things are starting to turn around, and that it looks as though in time, and maybe by our own actions, we're not going to be second-class citizens. Marriage equality that was passed in Minnesota, we were very, very delighted, both by the Supreme Court ruling, which negated, I think, Part 3 of the DOMA Act. We were delighted by that.
I don't mean to minimize the protections that the domestic partnership gives us. But I will say that it infuriates the hell out of me that we have to have it. Phyllis and I married in Canada almost 10 years ago. Phyllis is a Canadian citizen. We married there for a very practical reason, that is to keep open the possibility of someday retiring to British Columbia, which we still consider doing. And as a result of our marriage, I immediately applied for and then received permanent resident status in Canada. When we visit Canada, which we do fairly often, we'll be up there again in the spring, we feel good up there. Marriage equality is no big deal. And our Canadian friends and family are just amazed that it's been such a big deal in the United States, that people have gotten so worked up into a froth about it. So we have a constitutional amendment prohibiting same-sex marriage, and we have a domestic partnership law, which gives us some protections. And now we have a Supreme Court ruling that says that the federal government will recognize the legitimacy of same-sex marriages in those states which allow same-sex marriage, which excludes Wisconsin. So it's a convoluted and crazy situation. And for those of us who are trying to decide whether we can continue to live in Wisconsin, and that includes us, we don't know where to live now. It throws us into a state of optimism on the one hand and confusion and uncertainty on the other. Now, if we were in our 20s, we'd say we'll wait it out because, frankly, this train has left the station. This will happen. But it's complicated in Wisconsin. If you offered me $10 million to give up this relationship that we've had, I would say, get out of here. It's completely impossible to consider. And it's been tough.
Yeah,
it's been tough. But so what? You know, I mean, you do the best you can. How does our love hurt anybody? Who gets hurt? Who gets hurt? If you could show me a single person who's been hurt, because Phyllis and I have loved each other for almost 40 years, I'd like to talk to that person. I would. I'd like to invite that person over for a cup of coffee.
You know, that said, however, there aren't very good verbal things to say to people who are convinced of their bigotry. It's a very difficult thing. What we say is, look at us. We've been together 40 years. And we've gone through thick and thin to have our relationship. The bigotry cannot in any way capture the human relationship that we have. And nor does it capture the consequences on us of that kind of statement. I don't think we can argue that that we were born this way, or whatever the arguments might be to try to be ironclad about our relationship. We can only say we're together. We feel we deserve to be together. Our commitment is proven, and we're not hurting a soul. I don't know what more to say. Do you have something more to say?